Today on Media Tech Talk, we sit down and talk to Tess O'Brien, the newly appointed Managing Director for Australia and New Zealand at FreeWheel. And FreeWheel is a Comcast company at the forefront of advanced TV and video advertising. From nearly a decade in New York, driving FreeWheel's buy-side growth, to her return home here in Australia to lead the company's expansion across Australia and New Zealand, Tess brings a unique global meets local perspective. Now, Tess has been recognised as a rising star in ad tech by Business Insider and Young Influential by Adweek. She's helping broadcasters, streamers and advertisers reimagine how premium video is delivered, measured and monetised. Luckett, I think there's going to be a really good conversation coming up with Tess. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely an interesting space with ad serving and video and how that space has changed over the last 10 years. Looking forward to hearing her perspectives on her time in the US and with that market and how they've kind of really led the way in terms of streaming and led that evolution in the streaming TV space, and hearing how that has also affected the ad serving space and the challenges in that market coming up against behemoths like Google. So really looking forward to hearing about that side of things.
Awesome. Okay, let's explore her journey and the future of TV. All right, Tess, thanks for joining us. To start, could you tell us a bit about your journey?
Yeah, of course. So I've just returned to Sydney after many years working in New York. But yeah, let me share a little bit about kind of my journey back here. I started my career in law, which was a short but formative stint. I learned a lot about analyzing and kind of how to problem solve. But I think, if anything, it really just kind of formalized to me that I really wanted to be in an industry that I was really passionate about, which is media and technology. And so that led me to MCN, Multi-Channel Network. It was my first role in media. I started out in brand partnerships and then moved into kind of more of a commercial role. And it was a really kind of interesting time, I think, to be there, ability to utilize some of my legal skills in a more kind of commercial kind of partnership role, especially as the kind of television industry was already kind of starting to transform. But I always had this kind of long-term personal desire to live and work in New York. It was absolutely a dream of mine. And so an opportunity came up at FreeWheel, and I really feel like FreeWheel took a chance on me as really a bit of an unknown woman from Sydney. But I joined their corporate strategy team and was able to kind of sit at kind of the forefront of a huge kind of revolution within advertising technology. They gave me an incredible kind of education across global markets. And since then, I feel like I've worked for almost 5 different iterations of FreeWheel as we've grown different business lines or acquired different companies and kind of held a number of different roles across revenue, marketing, product. So I was leading our commercialization team, launching products across different customer segments and markets. And then most recently in the US, I was leading our buy-side technology team as well. But an opportunity then came up to kind of be part of our overall global expansion and kind of bring FreeWheel back to my hometown and lead kind of our expansion across the APAC region. And so I think this is really kind of an opportunity, both kind of where personal and kind of professional desires come to a point. And so being back home and kind of leading that overall evolution has been incredibly special, especially when I kind of feel so strongly that FreeWheel has a really kind of important role in this market and a lot of value that we can bring to publishers.
Because FreeWheel has been in Australia for quite some time. Like there are premium publishers who've been using FreeWheel. I think you coming into the market is giving it a massive boost and a refresh. Do you feel that way as well?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've had a lot of kind of incredible conversations across the market about the role that we could play. Obviously, we're working with a couple of publishers today, but our strength has really been, in global markets, and so growth in Australia and APAC is really kind of a huge focus for us. So yeah, it's been kind of special to think about how we can bring those global learnings into this market and really kind of drive overall change and kind of most importantly create kind of more equitable value for all participants. I think as the TV kind of streaming ecosystem evolves.
Do we sort of take a step sideways here and just say, look, Luckett and I have worked with you many years ago, so we've got a long history with the three of us, just before we started the interview, I was sort of reflecting on the time that we've had and seeing you from my point of view from the sideline and seeing you grow and take on this role is amazing. It's something that's not many people take on, and you are doing it with the most amazing ease and effortlessness. It's great. How do you feel about that?
That's very nice of you. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of kind of effort behind the scenes. Sometimes, like many people, I feel like kind of a duck above water. There's a lot going on underneath the surface, but I appreciate you saying that like it comes across with ease. I feel like there's always a lot of effort that kind of goes into everything. But yeah, I think the overall kind of evolution maybe that you have seen, like there's a lot of different people that have played a role in that. Like I've lent very heavily on kind of various different mentors in my life. I kind of sometimes think about it as like my personal board of directors and people that are kind of like my touch point that have guided me through various different kind of stages in my journey. And so I often feel like, we don't get places without a lot of kind of support from the people around us. And I kind of take that really, really, really seriously, especially as I think about kind of paying it forward as well. Like there's so much power in like community and support. In the US, Comcast put a lot of investment into our employee resource groups, and I was privileged to be part of our women's ERG and kind of working with kind of the overall kind of group of women that were coming up in our business, and I found that work in particular so inspiring as well, not just kind of mentors that I was working with, but actually people around me who were kind of driving that overall inspiration, and then kind of working through opportunities to like give that back into the next generation of leaders through our organization too.
Yeah, it's like there are a number of people who've been in the fortunate opportunity or have the opportunity to go to the US and do great things there. I think Jess White from Fairfax, when I was working with her some 15 years ago, now doing amazing things here on the agency side, and to see you and others come back from the US and bring that information and knowledge and just the growth opportunity and stabilize the market here. I think that's one of the things that we really need right now with everything that's going on up north.
Yeah. I mean, the breadth of global experience is enormously helpful. I mean, I didn't quite hit 10 years in New York, but I consider myself an honorary New Yorker for life. But there's so much about kind of that overall perspective of how other markets are operating, because I think Australia is very different as well. I mean, even just in terms of like the way that we operate, like culturally from a business sense, like this market is a community. It is based in kind of deep kind of relationships and partnerships that I think is really kind of so special and important to cultivate. But I think that there's also a lot that we can learn about, what other markets are doing to drive innovation, but then also what can we bring here as well. And so that's a big part of kind of what we're focused on at FreeWheel, is kind of bringing those learnings and lessons, but then also, being able to kind of customize that for the shape of this market, because the dynamics are very, very different here, I find.
Yeah. Where do you see those differences?
I mean, the biggest thing I think for us is that the adoption of kind of programmatic in this market far exceeds any other mature market in the world. So we're at kind of 60 to 70% programmatic kind of trading across premium CTV. Those numbers are significant compared to the US, which kind of sits more at that kind of 30 to 40%. I mean, it changes across different segments. In the UK, which is a little bit more around 20%, even less sometimes. And so I think the rate that we have adopted that kind of transaction path is incredible, and kind of showcases like an overall desire in this market to automate and embrace innovation, which is amazing. However, I think like after we've spent a lot of time with really kind of both buyers and sellers here, I think that the pace of that adoption has meant that, some of those foundational steps have been skipped a little bit. to a point where I think I'm talking specifically about streaming and premium video, there's really a loss of kind of overall control and transparency in terms of how things are operating. And I think for us, when I think about kind of the aha moment for FreeWheel here, that is really where I feel like we can kind of bridge the gap, and really kind of help transform the way things are operating, to really help all participants.
Because it's interesting.
Yeah, sorry, Paul, go for it.
Sorry. Yeah, it's super interesting because, like, being in the media space since 2011, going on 15 years now, like, I remember the early days, the first couple of years where it was pretty commonplace there was a belief that we were pretty, I'd say like 2 years behind in terms of the tech in advertising and marketing. We were a couple of years behind what was happening in the US, to how the Australian market itself has really evolved over the last like 10, 15 years to being such an interesting space where, it's big enough where anything that you want to trial in this market is meaningful in terms of the results that you'll see, but it's small enough that you can still test things with relatively low risk in terms of the investment required to do so. And the video space in particular is a fascinating one because, I mean, Australia, in the US, they always had cable TV, right? It was a big thing over here. When I mention free to air, whenever I'm in the US and I mention free to air people, it seems like a foreign concept because they had cable TV for so long, right? In Australia, it was just free to air, it was 7, 9, 10, SBS and ABC that's what you watched growing up. And then, we had Foxtel was the only real like cable TV kind of thing that we really had, and unless you want to go all the way back to when Optus had something. But I think in terms of, I'm curious to see how like the differences in the markets and the learnings from FreeWheel in terms of the US and how kind of advanced and mature that space has been in streaming, and I guess coming from that history of cable TV and how that is applied to the Australian market. If you look at, Foxtel, for example, who has taken them quite a while to evolve as a business and to really start to grow into that streaming space, and now working with DAZN and how that's changing their business. How that history for you personally in the US and FreeWheel as a business and applying those learnings to Australia. I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yeah. I mean, let me just take a step back for a second and maybe just kind of explain FreeWheel, because we have a very deep history in this space. So FreeWheel was founded in 2007. So this is really when kind of the world of digital video was really just emerging. And our founders felt very strongly that digital video was going to require, a very specific advertising infrastructure, because it is fundamentally different to display. And so we take that kind of focus very, very seriously. That has been our focus from day one all the way through to now, which I think really, really, really differentiates us. But obviously FreeWheel started in the US, and the dynamics of that market are different, incredibly complicated, to exactly what you're talking about, Paul. There's kind of wide stream cable penetration, which changes the kind of dynamic between a distributor and a programmer, and creates kind of a really important business relationship between those two parties, which FreeWheel has long supported, to ensure that kind of when they're both working together, a kind of advertising and viewer experience is maintained based on the kind of business rules between those parties. Obviously, in Australia, the dynamic of the market here is very different, because, it's a free-to-air kind of dominated market. And so I think that we've had to look for kind of innovation in different ways. And I agree with you. I think because Australia is kind of both in size and scale, but also just overall a little bit more of a closed ecosystem, it's an amazing kind of testing ground, which I think you see a lot of kind of both kind of advertisers as well as technology companies kind of use as a way to test new products in the market.
Tess, can I ask,
because
just on
it's a little bit more contained.
On the testing ground test, is that something that's widely recognised in the US as well, that Australia is that mixed base for trying new technology out? We've got such a wide multicultural country. We're a very high adopter of new technologies. Is that something that FreeWheel saw and you were able to impress on them that was the case as well?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And the teams that have visited Australia, even since I have been here, have been consistently impressed with kind of the overall vision of the leaders across this market and where they want to take things. And so, yeah, I think that is a very kind of clear understanding globally, and is represented in kind of the various innovation proof points here. Um, I do think that, coming back to what I was sharing about kind of the rate of programmatic adoption and kind of what that has kind of created in the overall ecosystem, I do think that that innovation we've kind of seen people run at, it's still important to kind of take a step back and just make sure that that's set up properly, where there is equitable value kind of for all participants, and publishers and buyers have kind of very clear transparency around how things are operating. I think that's just one thing I would call out.
What do you think are some of the roadblocks that FreeWheel has that are similar to other vendors in your space that you're challenging, that you're, I suppose, want to challenge the market with to try and provide solutions? And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, often there are problems there that we're not aware of. So how does FreeWheel sort of tackle that to make us aware of a problem and then, have the solution ready to go? What is there a lot of research and development that goes into building the products out?
Yeah, I think, look, we have an incredible product team and development team, but I think it all starts with working really, really closely with our customers and establishing really meaningful partnerships. Our belief is that, for our publisher clients in particular, we are here to protect kind of the value of premium video inventory, and deeply understand the problems that they are looking to solve for and be kind of their partner on their journey. And if we focus kind of very specifically on broadcasters, there is, this journey of convergence that they are all on at the moment as kind of consumer habits change from linear into kind of more digital consumption. We're going to be in a world where there's kind of a hybrid for some time. But I think that, we've had a lot of, close collaboration with our clients to understand what that looks like, and make sure that we're making the right investments that kind of drive things, forward meaningfully. And a really good example, I think, of that is an announcement that we made earlier this year. We've launched a venture called Universal Ads, which is led by Comcast, but underpinned by FreeWheel technology.
Yeah,
and
what
this
is
is really
Universal
kind
Ads? Do you want to take us through that for people watching and listening? What is Universal Ads?
Yeah, of course. So Universal Ads is really kind of focused on, our long-held belief that TV businesses need to continue to kind of evolve and innovate to capture new types of advertisers. And so I think we really saw an area of opportunity to capture kind of the longer tail of advertisers, SMBs, who have really kind of built their business in like search and social and are ready to kind of graduate to TV, but there's still kind of some of those limitations there. And so the investment in the Universal Ads platform, which is launched in the US now, is focused on kind of bringing a really easy to use self-serve platform for advertisers, so that they can connect across an entire kind of range of publishers in a really kind of easy kind of manner. We've also built connections into kind of merchant platforms as well, where they're already making investments across search and social to make kind of that overall process as easy as possible. And so really kind of bringing kind of incremental net new advertiser demand into publishers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and when you say connecting, what type of connections are we looking at? Are they like real-time APIs, or is there like, and are we talking being able to extend creative solutions and campaigns, as you said, into social media? Is that where you're going with Universal Ads?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that our acquisition of Beeswax has formed a really huge part of this. So I'm sure there are people listening who are familiar with the incredible Beeswax business. We acquired Beeswax in 2021. And, at that time it was a highly customizable DSP, really kind of used by a lot of businesses that wanted full control over their ad tech and kind of programmatic buying experience. We've put an enormous amount of investment into beeswax so that kind of it can specialize across the CTV streaming landscape, and it's really that technology that is working to kind of power the value of kind of universal ads and kind of support that buying experience between SMBs and kind of this pool of publisher supply.
Does that, like, obviously from a supply side platform, FreeWheel and beeswax, where does that put you in, either end of that sort of programmatic space? So you're obviously having both parts. Is that where you're going? Do you think that's where the market's taking you?
I think at its heart, FreeWheel are focused on streaming and publishers. However, I think that, working so closely with our clients, we have recognized the importance of being able to create more unique connections into their demand sources. And also just coming back to kind of that singular focus on streaming and the worlds of kind of that ecosystem, realizing kind of the specialized requirements for that part of kind of our industry as well. And so, we're focused on creating unique connections into demand for publishers, and working with them kind of closely on what that looks like.
Luckett, your technology background is going to be awesome on this piece, mate.
So with universal ads, so I guess, is this a ad buying platform, like self-service buying platform, or is this like a creative solution? Because I guess when you explained that before, my mind was going to what Nine have done with their Nine Ads Manager platform around using certain AI tools to help brands create video ads from assets that they're able to then run across the Nine broadcast network. Is that kind of where you guys are going with this, or?
So I think it's both. So it's focused as kind of a self-serve platform, but it's also across multiple publishers in the US. So it's kind of aggregating that pool of premium supply for buyers, and then also supporting kind of individual ad manager solutions as publishers may like. But on the creative side, working with kind of partners to build out that as well. And obviously there's so much innovation on that front with the rise of kind of AI technology, which we're also leveraging too, which I think is super exciting. And I think will kind of continue to transform how, TV can be used as a channel for that segment as well. Just super exciting.
AI is a really big topic. Do we go down that path? It's going to be a rabbit hole, that. So where is AI in the FreeWheel space?
We think about AI in a bunch of different ways. It's already been a huge part of our platform today through kind of ongoing investments and incorporation of machine learning technology within our platform. I think if I were to highlight the kind of core area of the platform where AI plays a fundamental role, it's in our unified decisioning capabilities. And so that's the ability for a publisher to make a unified decision across all their direct and programmatic demand, and do that kind of through a unique range of kind of open RTV connections into all of their different demand channels. And so I would highlight that as kind of our kind of main area, but then there's a lot of other kind of various points of innovation that we're driving as well. And I would really kind of call out, how we're thinking about agentic AI eventually also kind of plugging into our platform as well. And the preparation that we're doing as we see kind of how our publishers want to work change too. So I think that we're still very much on kind of that overall learning journey with the industry, but we're already kind of starting to take those steps internally as we kind of prepare for what that world looks like. And I think it's an exciting world that we should be embracing as well. So there's investments that FreeWheel are putting into our technology, and then there's also overall kind of preparation that we're making for kind of how the overall industry will change.
Can we go down the ad delivery process, in the technology, and how, can we go into that part and just understand more around the decision process that FreeWheel uses to deliver targeted ads to the right people at the right time. Again, going back to my point earlier, FreeWheel has been around for such a long time. I was working over at MI9 up to post 9 MSN days and was part of the setup team for FreeWheel at that time. It's like 15 years ago now. And it was a very basic video ad serving technology platform, but to see it evolve now, data is a really big part of what you do. And how does that influence the delivery of that and what devices can you go through to? Are we talking out of home, in home, as an example?
Sorry, Paul, what were you going to say? Did you?
Sorry, I was going to say, I also just add to that, like the kind of the difference as well in delivery between, like pre-roll, video on demand type content versus live content as well, and the differences between the two.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's just think about like how overall consumption habits have changed. I think that, when digital video first started, we were kind of mostly talking about, desktop computer consumption, then moved into kind of mobile tablet consumption. Now connected TV is really, where most of the viewing is happening, and we're seeing kind of incredible growth globally, not just in kind of more advanced advertising markets. I think that is an overall global trend that we're seeing. And so the screens have changed, but the heart of what we do has not changed. But the shift in composition, I think, also between video on demand to now kind of incorporating live has required a significant amount of investment from our side to prepare for that world. And we've had the privilege of supporting so many different publishers through incredible live events, from the Super Bowl to March Madness to the Olympics. And kind of partnering so closely with them to ensure a seamless digital delivery of those streams, we're incredibly proud of. And then also bringing programmatic into live environments as well. And so I think that like the core of what we've been focused on has not changed, but the types of delivery the screens themselves have. And David, you were talking about kind of where data comes into this as well. And I think kind of the overall usage of data to create more tailored and customized experiences for viewers has also risen significantly. And so, bringing in kind of advanced functionality to make sure that we can kind of bring those audiences into our platform and kind of deliver them on behalf of advertisers has been a really kind of important point of kind of focus for us as well.
It's a good, interesting question around the question around data and the usage of data, and then speaking about video on demand versus live, and how because I imagine with video on demand and how curious to hear how when FreeWheel kind of integrates with a publisher, what happens to that library of videos when you connect with the FreeWheel platform, because when you've got video on demand, you can do historical analysis there, so there's a lot of data that you can kind of get from that content. But then live is a whole different thing, right, where you're relying on completely different types of signals in real time, which adds so much more complexity to that. And how does that process, first of all, how does that process work when you guys are connecting to a publisher with their video on demand kind of library that they've got? I'm very familiar with how GAM does that, and then how that kind of works in terms of targeting and things like that. And then what technologies or what features that you guys are using on the live side of things to kind of get that real-time data to use for decision making.
Yeah. So let me just take a step back for a second. I think like a huge point of differentiation for us when we onboard streaming publishers onto our platform is the time that we take to design their overall network. We focus on 3 concepts: the who, the where, and the how. So who's viewing, where they're viewing, how they're viewing, and bringing kind of all of that metadata into our system to provide an incredible amount of granularity to our clients in terms of how they control the overall ad experience. And so that involves kind of setting up kind of very clear commercial break patterns, and kind of how they want to control like frequency and things like that. And so we take a lot of pride in that kind of critical step of establishing that network. But you talked a little bit about kind of the complexity of bringing in different types of viewing across live. I feel like we have lived and embraced that complexity side by side with our clients. And so I feel like there is no endpoint or device that we would ever be afraid of. We have been powering kind of linear addressability in the US across, set-top boxes across a range of different cable providers. And so I think you name it, we have dove in head first with our clients to kind of unpack all of that and kind of build alongside with them and innovate. From a live perspective, though, you also talked about kind of real-time data, how we bring all of that into our system. So this is one that I'll just kind of pause on for a moment. To execute live successfully requires a lot of different things coming together at the right time. We've invested in kind of our overall adaptive scaling capabilities so that we can handle the concurrency of kind of millions of viewers at one time. And you can only imagine, what that looks like, especially in scaled markets in the US, and kind of build that trust with our clients that we can support that. Then you kind of layer in bringing programmatic into a live stream. That is like a whole different kettle of fish for us.
Take us through that, Tess, because and just for everybody on the show, when you've got millions of people watching something in real time or even, and bringing programmatic into that and using data, and you've got millions of people being targeted with a unique ad that's unique to them. So versus the traditional broadcast method where we see a TV program and everybody sees the same ad, that's easy, right? Where you've got millions of different decisions going on at that very split moment, that's a big challenge for any technology solution. But you're delivering that.
Yeah. So let me use the Olympics, where we partnered closely with NBCU as their ad server and SSP. We worked closely with them on kind of the overall certification that they were doing across DSPs, who would kind of participate in programmatic buys across the Olympics. And kind of through that overall delivery, we saw, not only things delivered seamlessly, but just a huge growth in buyers that had not been, advertising in live sports before. And so that partnership, I think in particular, I would highlight both the work we did closely with them to prepare and then kind of the overall outcomes that we drove together.
To bring someone like NBC in the Olympics, it's obviously a huge event, right? Tentpole event. They've invested millions of dollars into this production. And bringing new technology in, there's an element of risk. And I love this. This is a really good question I love asking. But how do you mitigate that risk with someone like NBC who, they don't have to do this, but they've got to do it at some point. But you've come in obviously with Comcast and NBC, so the relationship's there. What is the journey to bring the trust into the boardroom or into the technology team that are going to try this stuff out? Because you've got to swing them around.
Yeah, look, for large scale live events like that, we go through an extensive process with our clients. There is months and months of kind of preparation to get to that point.
Did you go down to POC, proof of concept path, doing testing? Like what sort of timelines are we looking at? What do you do in that timeline?
To prepare for something like that, I would say is months in the making, especially an event that goes well beyond kind of just, a couple of hours, like the AFL Grand Final this weekend. This is like multiple streams with high concurrency operating at one time. So look, a publisher prepares for something like that years in advance. And we're consistently working with our publishers on live events at all times. For kind of a large scale tentpole event like that, I think that's a couple of months. It involves aligning around kind of a clear test plan, objectives, how our teams are going to work together. What does kind of a kind of on-call, on-bridge, war room like kind of model look like, to ensure that they have the support that they need through that process. So I think it's pretty extensive.
Is that something that you guys are doing for like an event like AFL, for example, where, massive AFL Grand Final, massive event, one of the biggest sporting events in Australia in the year? Is there like a FreeWheel war room type setup that you guys are setting up for that
for an event like that? So let's come back to maybe an example like the Super Bowl in the US. We would absolutely have a war room. Our network operations center would be connected kind of directly into our client's network operations center to make sure that we're all kind of monitoring things at the same time. So we provide a full white glove level of service around those types of events to ensure that everything is delivered seamlessly. Like there are incredibly high stakes here. And viewers expect a TV-like experience in those environments. Like they don't care that they're watching a live stream, versus a linear style experience. Like they care about everything being delivered seamlessly. And I mean, not only that, you also have advertisers on the other side of it as well. There are three very important stakeholders here. You have your publisher, your advertiser, and the viewer. And so, I think that, we are incredibly differentiated in both the time that we spend preparing for that, but also the technology investment that we've made to ensure things are delivered seamlessly. I think that that's a huge area of value that we can bring to the Australian market as well.
And that's actually a really good segue, because Paramount and FreeWheel have got a new partnership here in Australia. Do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a global partnership with the Paramount team. This is a long-standing relationship. Paramount Connect, I think, is an incredible kind of market-leading proposition that's been designed and developed by the Paramount team. We are a foundational element of that, unifying their supply, providing them with full control over their audiences and their monetization strategy. I think kind of with these partnerships, the way that we think about it is that we are driving the innovation so that our clients can lead. And that, I think Paramount Connect is an amazing example of that.
A major U.S. publisher had a problem. Too many disconnected demand sources, not enough revenue, low fill rates, under-monetized inventory. So they partnered with FreeWheel to unify all demand channels for intelligent ad decisioning. Intelligent ad decisioning maximized inventory value, balanced direct and programmatic, and turned house ads into real revenue. In just 2 weeks, revenue quadrupled. CTV inventory value jumped 225%, and house campaigns dropped by 66%. One platform, all your demand. Zero missed opportunity. FreeWheel, it pays to go direct.
So I just wanted to quickly touch on some of the amazing things that you've done in this industry, the awards, etc., that you've won. How do you feel about being recognised as Business Insider's 2023 AdTech Rising Star and AdTech's 2019 Young Influential Person? How does that feel? Where does your mind go when those moments pop up?
I mean, such an honor.
Yeah.
I immediately think about mentors across my life who have kind of been part of that journey with me. And certain mentors always stand out to you. I worked for the most incredible woman at MCN. Her name is Susie Blimman. She gave me just such a fantastic education in strategy and what it means to build, successful and collaborative partnerships and how to command a room. And so I think about kind of mentors like that. And then I also think about, people in my life that kind of inspire me. But overall, like, we're nothing without like the people around us. And so, when things like that happen, it's so special. But I really think about kind of the people that have been part of that. And it also impresses upon me the importance of paying it forward. And so being able to kind of work with people as they come up through the industry and provide them with the kind of incredible guidance that I've received from so many amazing leaders and female leaders as well.
Oh, well, I want to work with you. Sound like you're building an amazing opportunity and team here in Australia. I want to just ask you as well, where do you see TV and the experience that TV has in 2030? That's a bit of a long stretch. What seems like a long time away, it's not really when you think about it. I want to get to, how do you think people are going to be watching TV ads and how they're going to be delivered? What does that feel like, and how does it fit into FreeWheel? What's it going to look like in 2030? Where's the crystal ball for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. I feel like we've spent so long talking about the future, and I feel like the future is here. Like, consumers are watching what they want, whenever they want. I don't think that they really care, whether that's linear or streaming, which is kind of putting a lot of importance around ensuring that streaming delivers that true TV-like experience. But we've also talked a lot about kind of programmatic automation playing a huge role in that. And it is like, it's the dominant way in terms of how we transact in the living room. It's just kind of another stream. And so I think just given that, viewers are no longer distinguishing between linear and digital, we're kind of at this point where the micro details are evolving every day, but the macro details in terms of kind of what we've been building towards are already here. The only thing that I would really call out, I think, is kind of where AI is going to kind of transform just the way that we work, and kind of embracing that. But I don't think that, in terms of how viewers are watching, it's here, which is exciting.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we could probably spend another couple of hours going into AI and how that is potentially going to affect everything. One thing that I was reading about today, which is a little bit of a segue from AI, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question. With all the talk right now about Google Ad Manager and Google and everything in the DOJ cases in the US, I'm curious to hear kind of, when FreeWheel out there in market, what is your pitch to publishers in differentiation against what Google Ad Manager, having the dominant kind of ad serving space in the ad serving market? How do you guys go to someone like a broadcaster, someone like a 9, 10, 7, who may be using a Google Ad Manager to run activity across most of their network, and try to get them to either move away or carve out that space for FreeWheel to come in?
Yeah, good question.
I think that for us, FreeWheel is truly differentiated by three things, and I talked about it a little bit, so I don't want to repeat myself too much, but we have been focused on streaming. We truly believe that world requires a completely different level of kind of infrastructure and focus in terms of how ads are delivered. And so we've had that singular focus, this overall commitment to continue to innovate. We believe strongly that TV businesses need to continue to innovate their offering for advertisers, and we want to sit side by side with them to do that. And then the final thing is the people that we have in the organization as well. And I think the deep commitment that we have to the success of our clients. These are deep partnerships we are privileged to be in. And we're focused on delivering white glove service that goes kind of well beyond, what I think some of the kind of more general expectations are. I'd highlight for a moment our incredible advisory team, who really kind of build upon our services organization and are deeply experienced in kind of overall change management for our clients and kind of helping them think through changes in their tech stack, changes in their overall kind of business and sales strategy, and kind of that solution that we also offer into our publishers too. So I think our overall proposition is different really because of that kind of focus that we have, dedication and people.
So I guess, we broadly kind of all recognize that the, media consumption patterns, as you've mentioned, has changed. People are consuming streaming and video content primarily in a lot of cases. And FreeWheel is a business that is built around specializing and innovating in that space.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where we're going to be. That's our kind of continual focus, and our commitment is on kind of how we shape and build this new ecosystem to support, a TV-like experience for viewers and advertisers across streaming. And how can we bring kind of the best of kind of TV into digital and the best of digital into TV? That's really kind of where we sit at that intersection.
Tess, can I ask you, obviously you're well into streaming television. Do you actually have an affinity with streaming TV when you go home at the end of the day? Do you just want to sit down and do something other than get involved or engaged with TV? Where are you at with that?
I love TV. This is why I'm in the industry.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely love it. I love the content. And I think, one of the reasons why I'm so motivated is, I see the critical kind of importance that advertising plays in the overall kind of ecosystem and kind of to continue to enjoy the content that we love. Where does advertising play that role? But yes, I watch a lot of streaming.
Yeah. What's your favorite show?
Very diverse range of interests.
What is it?
I'll give you a few.
I'm watching The Gilded Age at the moment.
Oh my God.
I know
it's so good.
It's so good.
Which one was that?
The Gilded Age. Oh, it's actually on Paramount, coming to 10 soon as well.
It's excellent.
Yeah,
it's on Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
I also love The Pit.
Oh.
I was so excited to see them win so many Emmys the other week. So The Pit is on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. It's a medical drama, which I didn't know I was into. I am so into it now.
Right.
It led me down a whole rabbit hole on ER.
Yeah.
I was going to say, did you not watch ER earlier? Or
a long time ago. But yeah, love The Pit. Next season is coming out early next year, I believe. But then I also honestly, I love the news, and I love The Amazing Race is on at the moment.
It is.
And then I feel like I really need to watch Hunting Wives.
Oh, okay.
I need to understand what the buzz is. Yeah. So
I've got that one. That's a left of field. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's on Stan.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now we're running out of time, obviously. I would like to ask if you could give one piece of advice to young professionals starting out in media tech, what would that be?
Well, first of all, what an amazing time to join the industry. You're at the kind of huge kind of pivotal point in kind of how things are evolving. So great time to join. But my biggest piece of advice would be kind of two-pronged. Be curious and always take on challenges that stretch you. And this is something that I actually consistently remind myself of. If you don't feel an element of discomfort, you're not growing. And so you have to kind of feel that to kind of grow, I think, professionally. And so strive for those opportunities.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love the element of discomfort. It's just, it can be really unnerving, this industry. Technology, as we've discussed, is just changing at a rate of knots. And I think everybody that I've spoken to appreciates that there is just no one person that can understand or know everything. Not the way it used to be 15 years ago. I think it's just too hard. Like you're well and truly into the deep end of technology. Do you feel the same way?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Go for it.
I was just going to say, I have a commitment to myself that if someone says an acronym that I don't understand, I will always ask, because I feel like there's a new one every day.
100%.
And so
it's so
that's
true,
my commitment. Like, you might be in the deep end, but like it's never embarrassing to say, hang on a minute. Wait, what does that acronym mean?
100%. I remember 10 years ago, Pete Barry, when I was working at Add to One, he came out into the office and he said, okay, guys, give me some acronyms in the media space today. And I think we came up with 15. And that, we were really stretching to try and figure out what they were, as far as the scale. I don't know. You've got to be hundreds out there now.
I think we do it for fun at this point. It's almost like it's a meme in the industry. Like, we just got to keep creating more.
Totally, absolutely.
Totally. Yeah, we need to simplify things. I feel like there's a lot of I think there is art in the simplification of things, especially in technology. And I think if the more that we can make things easier for everyone to understand and make sure that we're all on the same page, is really going to kind of help open up that transparency as well that I've been talking about.
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to a friend's buddy's wife. They were hosting a media industry event, and she works in the medical field, and she came along for the event, and so she's meeting all these media industry people for the first time, and she was telling me that everybody's bringing up these acronyms and everything, right? These media industry acronyms just out of nowhere, and she's like, I work in the medical field, like trust me, we've got acronyms, right? Like, and so they were like having an acronym off, I feel like they have justifiable acronyms because they, deal with a lot of that, long words.
I think they need to get together with my mum. She's a retired registered nurse, and we've done the same thing.
Yeah.
It's inherent, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time to be getting into the tech space. I think there's a lot of I think there is a lot of justifiable fear right now around kind of what I would describe as like the white collar, jobs out there, especially with all the talk around AI. I personally think, fundamentals of business never really change. Business changes, but fundamentals never really do. So there's opportunity abound right now for the people that have the determination and, as you said, Tess, the curiosity and the attitude to really go out there and learn and make an impact and strive to make that impact. One of the things that has driven me in my personal journey throughout my career is change and driving change and being a part of change. It's why I started my consulting business and why I've done a lot of things I've done. So I think, there's always opportunities, regardless of how things change, and things will always change. AI, the phase 1 of AI that's rolling out right now won't be the last one. There'll be more in the future that we'll go through. I'm sure in 5 years' time, we'll be talking about some other big change that's coming through, but the opportunities are abound for the people that want to grab them. And the classic saying of idle hands at the devil's workshop kind of applies to complacency, right? Like you become complacent and you kind of get left behind. So don't let that complacency leave you behind. Like get out there, get active, get learning, be curious.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I think this is why there is so much about AI that is important to embrace, because it's going to give us time to be more creative. And I also think that it's really going to put a lot more emphasis on the offline interactions that we have too,
100%.
in business, in terms of the relationships that we are building and things like that. So there's a lot that I'm really excited about. But I completely agree with you. It's about kind of relishing and kind of seeking those opportunities.
Tess?
Yeah, I think it's. Sorry, just one last point, because as I said, we're going to go with the risk of not going into a deep AI rabbit hole. I really genuinely believe that it's going to place a much, kind of like what you were saying, it's going to place a much higher emphasis on human created content, human relationships, especially with AI generated content and how much that's going to proliferate and how much that's going to be out there. It's not like all the artists are going to go out of business. Artists are going to be more valuable than they ever have been, because people are going to be striving for that differentiation of actual human created content and art. And I think that's, applicable to any industry out there. Like you said, that offline connection, that relationships, human contact, I think is actually going to be more important than ever before.
Yeah. And storytelling, just coming back to what we're talking about, content, I think that, people are going to be really driven to, human connections and human stories as well. That's what I'm so passionate about as well.
Tess, I just want to say welcome back to Australia. It's great to have you back finally. And I'm hoping that we can hang on to you and not see you go off and do something equally as fabulous, because we need you. And it's been absolutely awesome to share some time with you, and thank you for your time to take us through your story and what's happening at FreeWheel. As Managing Director of Australia and New Zealand for an amazingly big company, FreeWheel, a Comcast company. It's not something that's done by small steps. You've done a lot of just that, I should say. So you've taken the small steps, but you've taken the big steps as well. And it's great to have you back here in Australia. So thank you very much for your time on the show. We look forward
Thank you.
we look forward to having another catch up with you at some point to hear where FreeWheel is. Hopefully it won't be 2030, yeah?
No. Before that.
Good.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to catch up, and very, very happy to be home.
And that was Tess O'Brien of FreeWheel. It was a really good conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Tess. It was great to have you on. Really enjoyed the conversation and hearing about the insights and about your journey. For everybody else, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Media Tech Talk.
FreeWheel is the platform that makes video advertising work. We create direct connections between buyers and sellers and use sophisticated technology to automate decisioning. This simplifies transactions while keeping you in control. Unleash the power of premium programmatic. FreeWheel. Go direct.